Hello and welcome to RealPeel Reports, a brand new podcast giving you a roundup of this week's news events made by teens for teens. Today, I'm joined by Rosen on the line and we're going to be here to talk about this week's news events. So Oscar, are you there?
Nope.
Oh, well, cue the outro music. Only joking, guys. We got you there.
Pretty scripted. Okay, so now basically the whole concept of this series is that we kind of have like a news outlet, and we kind of break it down, make it simpler for kids, and it's a kind of I think, is it daily or is it gonna be weekly, Finn?
Well, it's going to be a weekly news show where we give you a roundup of the events of the week. And what we're going to do is we're going to simplify them so that every kid can understand them. Because that's what we really want to do. Because I think a lot of people, including myself when I was younger, and lots of my friends, we all find the news world to be quite intimidating. Because you hear lots of these words like Chancellor of the Exchequer. So the aim of our podcast is to break it down and make it understandable for kids. Just like...
And also, I think as a child, I was kind of like clueless. I didn't really understand anything about the news. So having this kind of platform definitely makes it kind of simpler, and we can break it down.
Yeah, and we also want to make it more fun and interesting, just like we had on the intro. Really, you know, that's what it's all about. Because news can be dressed up as a boring, unentertaining thing, but actually we want to change the perception. So, should we get into the episode?
Yeah. Now, admittedly, I haven't actually done any research. It's all been Finn. So, Finn, why don't you start us off?
Okay, let's go.
Give us like a coming soon. Give us like a coming up in the episode. Do one of those.
So, coming up in this episode, our main story this week is going to be taking a look at the effects of COVID a year on from when we first went into lockdown. Then, we're going to take a look at a ship that's been stuck in the Suez Canal and what that could mean. We're also going to take a look at the Europe export for the vaccines. And then, we're going to look at some more interesting stories further on in the show, but we'll keep them a mystery. So, does that sound good, Oscar?
That sounds great. Okay, so what's the first story for us?
We're going to start off with the effects of COVID, really. We all know what COVID is. We all know what's happened. We've been in 3 lockdowns now. In fact, is it 4? To be honest, I've lost count of you.
Yep.
So, with it, we're just going to be really talking about how it's happened and what it's done. So one of the things a lot of people have looked at is the cost in terms of money, because that's something you can measure. And what a recent study has found is that it has had an effect of £251 billion to our economy. And that's how big the effect is. But that's only in something you can measure by a figure. What we actually want to look at is the effect on something that can't be measured by a figure or a stat. How it has affected people mentally. So what do you think about the way it's affected people, Oscar?
It's funny to say that. So yesterday, we were recording this on the 26th of March. And basically yesterday, I was on the news, right? The radio. And I was talking about like mental health and how, especially for young kids, like mental health has taken a massive toll on all of us because of lockdown. So I think as soon as we get out of this, it'll be better for everybody.
Yeah, because it's such a hard time for everyone, really, isn't it? Because, actually, think about it. All the kids, just like you and me, have actually had our lives interrupted. Like, we were made to not be able to go to school 2 weeks before Easter. Then we had the rest of that time up until the summer where learning wasn't quite as good because you can't ask those interesting questions. You don't get that social interaction as well.
Yeah.
To develop social skills, we need to learn better. And actually, that sort of halted that.
Yeah, exactly.
So the thing that I'd like to talk about the effects of COVID, this is the saddest bit of it. That over 125,000 people have died. Like, I feel like that's such a horrible, horrible thing that's happened to our country. Like, we have one of the highest death rates in the world. And it's such a serious and sad thing that over 120,000 people have died. Think of the amount of families grieving. Like, it's such a sad thing. And to think it could have been way less worse if the government had have taken action earlier. Anyway, should we move on to another story?
Let's do that. We're running out of time here.
So the next story we're going to talk about is this ship. It's been stuck in a canal called the Suez Canal. I'm sure, like me, when I first read the story, you don't know what the Suez Canal is, do you?
Nope.
It sounds like some sort of sewage thing, but it's basically this big canal that runs between Asia and Europe and means that the ships don't have to go around Africa. And it saved the ships about 10 days in terms of shipping times, which can be really vital when they're transporting goods like fruits and things that need to be delivered for manufacturing parts or like PPE. But what's happened is this canal, which is 250 metres wide, a ship has got stuck in there, and it's a one-way canal, and over £400 million in money are having to be stopped every hour, and that is worth every day £7 billion, all for one ship getting stuck. But think of the immensity, the actual size.
Do you know what kind of cargo was on the ship?
I actually don't, unfortunately.
You should look that up.
Probably got a lot of mixes, probably got like fresh produce, maybe cars, a lot of manufacturing parts, probably some PPE because of it's coming from Asia, maybe even COVID tests because that's where a lot of them are supplied from.
Yeah, that's insane. Right, next story, let's move on. What's the next story you got?
So the next story, so it's another negative one, but we will have a positive last one. But the next story is we're going to be talking about the vaccine. So this has become quite a controversial issue because the UK vaccine, the one that's manufactured and invented in the UK, is the AstraZeneca one. And what's happened is AstraZeneca promised Europe that they'd export a certain amount to them, but they haven't been delivering. So they've kind of basically tried to make it so that if we don't deliver the AstraZeneca vaccines, the Pfizer vaccines, right, which are the ones manufactured in Belgium in Europe, they're not going to be delivered to us because they want the AstraZeneca ones, and they've hardly had any in return.
It's funny actually because I don't know who told me this, but basically because of Brexit, which is basically Britain deciding to leave the EU, and so what happened because of that is theoretically Europe could say, oh yeah, by the way, we're not going to give you any of our vaccine because you left us. So and it's funny because most of the government voted for Brexit. So I mean, if they didn't, then it means we might have actually got the vaccine. So
I don't want to mention names here, but someone I know does some work in factories. Let's just say, right, and they basically, this is an adult. Basically go into factories and work with them and improve their processing time and everything. Sounds very fancy. But they were talking to one guy and he was like, oh, Brexit's brilliant, Brexit's really helped us. And then the person was like to the guy, he was like, so how's Brexit helped you? And then the guy was like, well, it's meant that and then the person who I know, he asked him how long the times are, and actually for a part to get in is now 8 to 12 weeks, and before Brexit it was actually 1 week.
That's insane.
It's become like a political battle over it. Like, the vaccine is a great thing. Why are people battling over it politically? Like, it doesn't matter what side you're on. Just stop being like, oh, our country deserves it better. Whatever side you're on, the vaccine is something that can help so many people. Don't turn it into a political war.
Just think though, like this, we are so close to getting out of this entire mess. So I cannot wait. Okay.
Anyway, time for the last and that mystery story you've all been waiting for. At least I hope you've been waiting for it.
Nobody's been waiting for it.
So, the last news is some pretty positive one. As most of you will know, Piers Morgan, he was really horrible about the Harry and Meghan interview. So basically what happened was he basically nonsense that Meghan said she had suicide feelings. No matter what your personal opinions are, you cannot nonsense that. Think of the effect that has on other people. If there's people watching that actually are feeling like that, if they then see on the TV a guy who talks to everyone, right, and some people listen to, if they see him saying that our suicide claims are really bad and are false, then how is that's going to make them feel like they can't speak out? And that's a really tragic thing.
Completely.
But the weatherman, Alex Beresford, he stood up to him and he made an absolute mockery of him. And it was actually brilliant. But then what happened was Piers Morgan, a bit of a baby, stropped off, and now Alex Beresford, the weatherman, or at least he used to be the weatherman, has now been made permanent host of Good Morning Britain with Susanna, which I think is such a nice thing, don't you, Oscar?
I agree. I don't know what I haven't seen them actually talk about it. I only had this review, so I'd like to see an interview with Susanna. You know, kind of how she's kind of seen the whole situation. I wanted to see it through her eyes. But anyway, that's a very interesting story. And I just think
it's really nice to get someone who's spouting rubbish and sort of influencing people in the wrong way off the TV and off influencing people, so then it's a more fair-minded view. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
We need to wrap up the podcast, don't we?
Let's do it. Okay, this has been very, very fun. I hope we can do some more episodes in the future. It will be weekly. We'll be doing more episodes like this, and it will always be relevant to the topic news. So make sure you stay tuned. Get involved, and also message us. We're all under the name of RealPeel Studios. So if you go to Spotify or Anchor or Apple Podcast or Google Podcast, type in RealPeel Studios. Oh yeah, so I forgot. Yeah, or YouTube, and you can do it there, and we can. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, just check it out, really. It's a great thing. We're going to be uploading
go
weekly.
Go listen.
Yeah, just
exactly.
follow us on all the platforms. We're going to be doing all sorts. And then we're thinking of maybe doing some newsletters and all sorts. Depends what your guys' reaction is. But we're going to make this a really interactive thing. Anyway, before my time on our podcasting recording service runs out, we're going to wrap up the programme. Wrap up the podcast.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Cue the outro music.